right, Miles, let's talk about the Cincinnati Bengals here. Look, this is a Bengals team coming off an 0-2 start. There's some concern maybe in Bengals land, maybe Super Bowl hangover. That's obviously gone by the wayside. They won 5 of their last 7 games. They now sit at 5-4, only 1 game behind the Baltimore Ravens at the top of a brutally competitive AFC North. It's going to come down to that wire in that division and in the wild card. That's how it should be. The Bengals are used to that, obviously, making their late run last season to win the division, of course, make a run all the way to the Super Bowl. And they get some good news at a good time as they look to build that momentum for a late season run, hopefully back to the Super Bowl is where Bengals fans want to go. But Bengals fans, look, as you try and head back to the Super Bowl, you're looking around wondering, if we just maybe had that player over there or that player on that team on our team, it would be so much easier. So we want to hear from you in the comment section below. Give us 3 guys throughout the NFL that you'd love to see in a Cincinnati Bengals uniform right now. Doesn't matter what team they play for now. Just give us 3 guys in the comment section below that you really want to have on the Cincinnati Bengals football team. But Miles, give us the latest out of Cincinnati.
Yeah, Nick, speaking of guys that Cincinnati would like to have on this football team, that would be Pro Bowl wide receiver Jamarr Chase. He has been hurt, and he is slated to miss his 3rd consecutive game with a hip injury. That all sounds bad, Nick, but there is hope on the horizon. Per CBS Sports and Brian Diardo over there wrote an article stating that it looks like, yes, that Chase will miss this Week 11 game, but he is slated to be back next week against a strong conference opponent in the Tennessee Titans, a rematch from the divisional round of the playoffs last year, Nick. There's some money on the line on that game. I think the Titans have a bone to pick, so it would be really nice to have Chase back for that game. So the Bengals offense is firing on all cylinders against, quite frankly, a pretty tough Titans defense. So I think this is probably the perfect time to get Chase back, don't you think?
100%, especially when you look at the Bengals schedule down the stretch. It gets pretty brutal, right? You have the Tennessee Titans who are probably going to win the AFC South most likely. You go to you get the Kansas City Chiefs at home, who are obviously extremely good. You have Browns at home, division rival Watson, I think is going to be playing by then, so that could be much tougher. And frankly, the Cleveland beat Cincinnati not long ago. You have to go to Tampa. Tampa's playing a lot better. You have to go to Foxborough. The Patriots are good, and playing at the Patriots in Foxborough late in the year, just weird stuff happens. No one ever wants to go there late in the year. And then you get the Bills and Ravens to finish out the year at home. I mean, that is a brutal schedule, and you need to have all hands on deck, all weapons ready. And I really love the fact that they didn't rush Jamarr Chase to get back to potentially play against his Steelers team. I'm sure it was maybe one of those things where potentially it's like, well, maybe he could play if it was a playoff game. Maybe we really, maybe force him back into the fold. I love the fact they took their time, because the worst thing that could happen is Jamarr Chase coming back a week early and re-aggravating the injury or hurting something else, compensating for the injury, and missing some of those brutal games down the stretch. Because everyone knows, like, Joe Burrow's stupendous. This offense has a lot of weapons. They dominated Atlanta, for example. They can score points on a bunch of teams. They dominated Carolina. But I think the point here is for the Cincinnati Bengals team, they need Jamarr Chase to be an elite contender. Everyone knows it, right? Jamarr Chase is sort of the answer. We talk about matchup nightmares and how that makes teams contenders all the time. Jamarr Chase is the Bengals matchup nightmare. The Bengals with Jamarr Chase are a championship contender. The Bengals with just Joe Burrow and T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and Joe Mixon, they're a good football team, but it's just not the same, clearly. And that's not a knock on any of those guys. It just speaks to how good Jamarr Chase can be and frankly already is, and what he does for that football team. So I really love the fact they're not rushing him back, and they're getting him back just in time for that deep late postseason push against a lot of quality opponents down the stretch.
And yeah, Nick, Chase is definitely the difference maker on this offense, but you can't blame Burrow or anybody else for that, because you got to think, what would Josh Allen be without Diggs? What would Kirk
100%.
Cousins be without Jefferson? There's
Tua
so
without
many.
Tyreek Hill.
Tua, we even saw Tua without Tyreek, and it's a completely different team altogether. So there's something to be said about having a star guy as a wide receiver. And as Bengals fans, you have to appreciate and understand, and I know they do, that you do have a superstar guy at the wide receiver position. And it's really nice knowing that he's there and he's about to be back. So, this week going into Pittsburgh to play the Steelers, I don't really think you're going to be too worried that Chase isn't there for that game. I think you have the firepower on offense to go toe-to-toe with the Steelers. It is a tough divisional game. You never know what's going to happen. TJ Watt's back. You can't really count out any divisional opponents, especially in the North. Everyone plays each other so tough. But coming back against the Titans, another team that is particularly tough to play, it will be nice to have Jamarr Chase back for that game. So I am excited to see him back. I'm excited to see what he can do, Nick. And it's perfect time to get him back. Like we said, it's coming in this, week 12 zone right at the end, getting in the last 6 games of the season, playoff ready, getting everyone starting to gel, getting everyone healthy. This is the absolute ideal time if somebody's going to come back and start getting back into the fold. Right now is the time that you want them to get back, because by the time they are back up 100% to full speed, that's right around the time the playoffs, roll around. And we all know what happened last time. The Bengals slipped into the playoffs and got hot, Nick.
Oh, yeah, and that's the thing with the Bengals, especially when you have a guy like Burrow and, of course, the playmaker of a guy like Jamar Chase. The Bengals aren't one of those teams where they have to get home field advantage, right? Everyone knows there's teams. For example, I think the Eagles in the NFC this year, they have to get home field advantage. They can't go on the road and make a run in the playoffs. They just don't have the horses. They're just not structured that way. The Bengals proved last year they can win in Tennessee. They can win in Kansas City, 2 brutal places to play. So when I look at this Bengals team, they don't need to win 12, 13 games, get, the number 1 overall seed, or even get the 2 or 3 seed. They'd love to be the division winner, don't get me wrong, but they're very comfortable as a wild card team going on the road in the playoffs. They proved that last year. So again, slow playing Jamar Chase, making sure he's back in time for the critical games down the stretch, starting with the Tennessee Titans in a couple weeks. Again, really smart move by this Bengals organization, and I think it'll pay off for them big time come playoff time.